Becky, up to now you've been learning how to teach clients new behaviors. Part of preparing a client for success is helping the client unlearn inappropriate behaviors.
Like hitting someone, Greg?
We both agree that hitting, biting, pulling hair, and destroying property are almost always inappropriate. But what about refusing to go for a walk?
There are times that might be appropriate and times it might not. Maybe a person's refusing to go for a walk because his leg is injured. That would be appropriate.
Right. My point is that what's appropriate and what's not is a judgment call depending on many factors.
Like how a person is feeling.
Exactly. So before we can develop an effective program, we have to understand why that inappropriate behavior occurs. You're going to learn to analyze the purpose of inappropriate behavior. Then you're going to learn how we program to reduce that behavior.
We want to understand the purpose of behavior?
Yeah.
But don't some behaviors just happen for no reason at all?
No. All behavior occurs for a reason. Even when a baby cries, that baby's communicating that she wants something, food, rest, stimulation, or to get away from something uncomfortable. When clients behave inappropriately, they're communicating something too. We psychologists have to be detectives to figure out what message the person's trying to communicate.
I see.
Inappropriate behavior may be a way to communicate how a person feels, or it may be a way to get something the person wants or needs. The point is that without knowing the purpose of the behavior, I can't effectively help the client.
How do you go about discovering that purpose?
When you come to me and tell me about someone's inappropriate behavior, like hitting, I look at all the times that behavior occurred, and I ask 5 questions. Number 1, what's the behavior? 2, what's the history of the problem? 3, what prompts the behavior? 4, what follows the behavior? And 5, what are the social rules? By answering those questions, I'm in the best position to find out what the purpose is. Once I know the purpose, I can help you.
So you begin by asking, what's the behavior?
Right. I need a clear description from you. What exactly does the person do?
Like tantrum?
Well, words like tantrum are too vague. Different people tantrum in different ways.
So I need to be more specific.
Right. And if the person was tantruming, I'd ask you to tell me, were they screaming? Were they banging with their fists? Did they fall on the floor? If the person was physically aggressive, were they hitting or kicking or biting? How many times did they bite? Who or what did they kick? If the person was verbally aggressive, what did they say? Did they curse? Did they threaten you?
The more detailed the information, the better.
Right. I'd also like you to explain what happened during the incident from start to finish. Did the tantrum start slowly and then build, or did it start out full-blown? When did the inappropriate behavior start? Did it follow a request to do something? Do you think it could have been stopped?
There's a lot to describing behavior.
And I depend on your description, even when I'm able to see the behavior myself. Now, my second question is, what's the history of the problem?
Oh, like, is this an old problem or a new one?
Right. And has it recently increased or decreased? Maybe there's been a sudden change in the person's life or in the environment, and this is the person's way of telling us that he doesn't like those changes. My third question is, what prompts the behavior?
Like what happened just before the incident?
Sure. I want to know where the client was, who else was around, what they were doing, and the time of day the incident occurred.
I see. Then you know where the behavior occurs, who it occurs with, and what time it happens. This is kind of like being a detective.
Now, I also want to know what the client was doing prior to the incident.
Oh, you mean like the task the person was working on?
Sure. Was the client working at something that's too difficult?
And getting frustrated.
Or something that's too easy, or nothing at all?
And getting bored.
My fourth question is, what follows the behavior? I want to know what happened immediately after the incident. What did the client do? What did staff members do?
Like, did the staff all gather around the client?
Exactly. Imagine you're the client and ask yourself, What did this behavior get for me?
Maybe attention.
Or maybe it got the client out of doing something.
Like out of a chore.
Yeah. Now my fifth question is, what are the social rules?
Social rules?
There are social rules for how staff members and clients relate. Rules for what behavior is acceptable for staff and what behavior is acceptable for clients. Sometimes these rules are a source of tension and stress.
In what way?
Maybe staff can drink soda or smoke cigarettes whenever and wherever they want, but clients are on a schedule and can only smoke or drink soda at certain times.
Sounds frustrating for the client.
It is. Maybe another rule is that one client is a favorite, gets lots of attention, while another client is in the doghouse and doesn't get any.
Oh, like in school.
Sure. And you remember in school how there was a teacher's pet and a class clown? The pet got the teacher's positive attention for anything and everything. The clown couldn't get positive attention, so he found ways to get the class's attention and the teacher's negative attention.
By acting out.
Right. The same thing happens here when we're uneven in our distribution of attention. People will settle for negative attention if that's all they can get. Let me tell you about Bill.
Okay.
Bill had a problem being late for work. He received a check mark on a sheet of paper each time it happened, but he kept on doing it. Turned out that when Bill walked in late, each staff member made it his business to tell Bill, "You're late. You're going to get a check mark." But when Bill was on time, no one said anything.
So Bill kept coming in late because of all the negative attention.
Right. Bill settled for negative attention because the social rule that everyone operated by was Bill only gets attention for being late.
That means it's important to know how often clients get positive attention.
Right. Is it once every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Because the less clients and staff interact, the more likely a client will act out to get negative attention.
Exactly. I also need to know how the other clients were behaving.
Why?
Well, someone else may be disrupting the client, or the client may be modeling the inappropriate behavior of others. Once I've gotten answers to these questions, I'm in the best position to decide what's the purpose of the behavior.
All behavior occurs for a reason.
Right. I want to know what the client could be communicating by this behavior. Now, we've talked of some possibilities already.
Wanting negative attention, wanting to get out of a chore, or being unhappy about a sudden change.
Sure. Maybe this is the person's way to cope with stress. I know one client who gets kind of witchy because he can't handle the little upsets in his life and no one else seems to care.
So the purpose of a behavior program is to teach the client a better way to communicate.
Right. A behavior program is also designed to change the way we relate to the client.
Why?
Well, think about it. If the client's trying to communicate something and I haven't gotten the message, I need to learn to be more receptive.
So you're saying we can't help the client without first helping ourselves.
Right. We use a positive approach. You'll find that our behavior programs use positive reinforcement.
Why is that?
Because used correctly and consistently, positive reinforcement changes behavior without the fear and mistrust that punishment produces. We want to reinforce appropriate behaviors so much that the person doesn't need to engage in inappropriate behaviors.
How do we do that?
By using differential reinforcement.
What does that mean?
Well, once we identify the inappropriate behavior we want to reduce, we reinforce all other appropriate behavior. That's differential reinforcement.
Because we reinforce differently. We reinforce the behavior we do want and not what we don't want.
Uh-huh.
What about when the inappropriate behavior occurs?
You'll use one of 4 techniques: planned ignoring, blocking, redirection, or restitution.
You'll explain those, right?
Right. Planned ignoring is easy to understand, but sometimes it's the hardest to carry out. All you need to do is ignore the behavior. Pretend it didn't happen.
That sounds easy.
But what if the person curses you? Lots of people find it hard to ignore that, but it can be very effective.
I see.
Blocking is used when a person is self-injurious. Let's say a person slaps herself in the face. Blocking means you use your body to stop the person from slapping.
Okay.
Redirection is getting the person's attention on something else. Say a person's starting to get tense and nervous, building up to a screaming episode. You can get the person's mind off what's making them so upset, redirecting them to some other activity.
Oh yeah, I used to do that with my kids.
Restitution means having the client fix what he broke or pick up what he threw.
Or clean up the mess he made?
Right. What you do, ignoring, blocking, redirection, restitution, will be specified in the behavior program.
Got it.
Now, for the single most important thing about carrying out a behavior program, consistency.
If I don't carry it out the same way each time, I won't be successful, right?
Right. And if you carry it out, but someone else doesn't, you won't be successful. One client, Matt, is strong and he bear hugs inappropriately. We have a program to redirect Matt to shake hands instead of hug, and it was working. But then some new staff members decided it was cute to let Matt hug them. Bingo. Matt's back bear hugging everybody.
Kind of confusing for Matt.
You bet. And you know, it's intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes he's reinforced for bear hugs, and sometimes he isn't.
So the bear hugging happens more instead of less.
Right. Inconsistency can actually increase a behavior instead of decreasing it. Inconsistency among staff can also happen when a client is served by different agencies.
Like the workshop and the residence.
Right. If the behavior occurs in both settings, then the same behavior program needs to be followed in both places. Another aspect to consistency is keeping on with the program, even if it doesn't produce immediate results.
Give it a chance, huh?
Yeah, because some programs take a while before we see a behavior change. Sometimes people stop programs because they work too well.
Why would anyone do that?
Tom had a program to decrease his refusing to do things. Well, he stopped refusing, so the staff stopped the program. Then Tom went back to refusing. So we restarted the program, and now Tom's doing fine.
I can see how consistency is really important to the success of a behavior program.
To sum up, first you try to find out what the person's communicating by the inappropriate behavior.
You do that by clearly describing the behavior, finding out the history, what happened before, and what happened after the behavior.
You also examine the social rules.
Behavior programs emphasize positive ways for staff and clients to relate.
And you deal with the inappropriate behavior by ignoring, blocking, redirection, or restitution.
If we're inconsistent, we increase the inappropriate behavior.
You've got it, Becky. These are skills that you can use as a parent and friend as well as in your work here. That's it for today. See you next time.
Okay.